Okay, welcome. And we have here for question and answer two of the filmmakers from the three films you just saw. Lisa, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Lisa Malamat. I am the co-director and one of the producers of Missing in Brooks County. And I am talking to you from Tucson, Arizona.
Great. Nayun?
Hi, my name is Nahyun Big, and I am filmmaker. I am a director and producer of the animated short Stereotype. Yeah, I have one more director, but he's not here. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. But
Cool.
yeah.
Well, thank you for being with us. Just a general question for each of you. What inspired you to take on this film, or what was the original seed for it that got you going to get you started?
You want to go ahead?
You can go first if you're.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Sure. So Jeff Bemis, the co-director of Missing in Brooks County, and I, we had heard about the work that a forensic scientist was doing along the border, trying to identify unidentified remains. And we were interested in what she was doing. We thought maybe we could make a short film about her work. And so we reached out to her and we went to Texas to meet with her. And she brought us to Brooks County. And like so many films, the film started out as this tiny little short film about a forensic scientist. And within hours of being in Brooks County, we realized, okay, this is a much, much bigger story than we had ever thought. And we switched gears. And so the film is and she's not even in the film, actually. She's not even the forensic scientist who's featured in the film. So things changed very quickly. And we continued to go back to Brooks County over the course of 4 years, every few months, spending a couple of weeks at a time, digging into the story. It became more complicated, more, participants. We just kept going back and just digging into it deeper and deeper, and finally met the Romans, actually the family that's featured in the film. It took about 1.5 years to find the right family to focus the film on, and we were really, really fortunate to find them and that they were ready to tell their story, because this was not an easy thing for any family to participate in this film. It's so personal, what's going on with them. And so we feel very fortunate that we connected with them. They actually found our website. We had a website up for more like fundraising purposes, and they were Googling Missing in Brooks County, and they came to our website. And Michelle Chinos, who's the sister-in-law of Omero who went missing, she emailed us. And when we got the email, we had already been filming with some families. So it was a little bit like, maybe Naren couldn't relate to this. It's a little bit like, okay, like it's too much. Like we've already taken on these other families, but you can't say no, right? So we went to Houston, I think it was the following week, and met with them. And we were like, wow, their story is really powerful. And they seem ready to tell it. And they had all of these, they had the phone calls from when Omero went missing, from Border Patrol, from the smuggler, so it was like they had all of these like pieces to tell this story in an incredible way. And they went back and talked with their parents and said, there's this film, do you want to participate? And they all decided they wanted to go for it. So we started filming with them.
Cool. Nayun, what inspired you? How did you start here?
I mean, like you have, Lisa, you have so many like adventure in your film, but for me, mine is pretty much quiet. Since I was a kid, I like animating, and I like watching animation with my brother, and I think it just naturally motivated me to make this film. And also, actually, for biggest part of my life, I'm an animator, 3D animator. So as working on some films, it just naturally motivated me to make this film. Yeah.
So Nayun, how did you fund this? It's a personal project, right?
Yes.
Passion project, as it were.
Yeah, it took about like $20,000. So I could handle it. So I'm as I mentioned, I'm working. So me and my brother, like put the money together and
Good for you.
just work on it.
So you didn't have anyone telling you what to do. It was fairly free,
No.
right?
Yeah, it was kind of benefit for us, but the reason why we started this film is to challenge ourselves as a filmmaker. And August is our first filmmaking, so yeah, we just wanted to make our own film without any sponsor or any kind of. Obviously, there was a lot of challenging, but it was kind of fun.
What an advantage, though. That's great. I wish you continued success financing without people leaning on you. Lisa, how did you finance? Crowdfunding?
No, we started out with I teach at the University of Arizona, and so does one of the other producers. And so we started out, I think, with a grant from the University of Arizona. And then pretty soon after, Fork Films, which is Abby Disney's company, came on board. And they provided funding, but they also helped us raise more funds. Mm-hmm. So that was really key in raising some more production funds, and then small grants here and there. And then eventually ITBS, the funding arm of PBS, came on board. And that was like significant funding. And then another production company called Engel Entertainment, who are based in New York, saw the rough cut and wanted to give us some funding. So it was the kind of thing, I think this happens a lot, where like for production, we didn't have lots of money. We stayed in the cheapest motels, and we were always, very careful with money, and still are, but we really didn't have a lot of money. And then once we got into the post-production phase is when the money started to come in. Once we had something to show, right, to explain this film, because it's not a film with one story. It's these two stories, really three stories interwoven with other little pieces of, life in Brooks County. And so it was hard for people to, I think, see what the film was going to be until we had a rough cut. So it makes sense, but it's a struggle making a film that way, because basically we just covered our travel. And it's always a challenge funding a documentary.
Right. Did you have any political obstacles to funding because you have somewhat volatile subject matter?
I mean, I don't think that was the issue. I think it was more like people just didn't really see what we were doing. Yeah. I think that's, and also there's just there are a lot of good films out there. It's when you apply for grants for any film, you're really competing with really talented people, and people right, with more of a track record than we had, right, in fundraising. So that was sort of more, I think, what was going on.
Cool. So who's your target audience? Who do you want to see this? I mean, PBS is behind you, I guess, but Lisa, how do you see this being distributed, or what's your dream for it?
I mean, we feel like everyone needs to see this film.
Agreed. Yeah.
It needs to understand what's going on, not just in Brooks County, but all along the border. It's actually this year, more migrants have died after they've crossed the border than ever. And, between the Biden administration, between, all the law enforcement that was put into place during the Trump administration that still exists, which creates a longer walk for migrants around this checkpoint, because it's like you've got more law enforcement around the checkpoint. Therefore, the smugglers drop the groups off further south. So you've got all of this that was created during the Trump administration. On top of that, you've got more migrants coming. You've got climate change. The temperatures everywhere are increasing in the summer. And the summer months are really when the migrants come, because it's not hunting season. So that's what goes on in the ranches in Brooks County, is hunting, in the winter months. But when it's not winter, and it's hot there, that's when migrants come. And so these three things together are creating a perfect storm, and it's really a bad situation there. And it's not just Brooks County now, it's spreading into other counties too. Further west in Texas, they're really seeing a lot of migrant deaths. So it's really I feel like everyone needs to see the film, and particularly elected officials who can really do something about this.
Right. Noon, who do you hope sees your film? Where do you want it to?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same here. We hope everybody can watch our film because it's pretty much our film is pretty much straightforward. It's about just stereotype that most people might have been experiencing. I don't really specifically talk about racism or gender kind of thing, but you know, we wanted to focus on small things that causing the stereotype. Like, so it's not about like bigger portion of the society. We are thinking about more individual things that we mostly like we might have experienced in our daily life. So yeah.
Cool. So what's I mean, Lisa, you had a lot of hardship. What would you say was the hardest thing about what you were doing?
Oh boy, it was, yeah, I mean, aside from funding, which, that's not the most interesting topic. I mean, we did very well with creating relationships with people in Brooks County. That's how we were able to get such good access to law enforcement, Border Patrol, the families. I mean, it takes a lot of persistence and work to create relationships and keep them up. But for me, the hardest thing is probably living with this story for so long. I mean, we started this film in January 2015. And, this kind of thing, sometimes some things get easier as you live with them. This is one of these things that actually gets harder. And Kate Spradley, who's in the film, we kind of saw her journey with this too, because she started working in Brooks County around the time we started filming with her, just before. And through the years, I've seen her really just become like angrier and angrier over what is going on. Because, you just, after a while, you just can't, no one's listening and you can't believe this is going on. So it's really, and Jeff and I have the same reaction. I mean, over time, it just got harder. It didn't get easier. We didn't become desensitized, let's say. Like it actually became harder.
Noon, what was the hardest part of your project?
For me, like obviously, because me and my brother pretty much took care of every single aspect in this film. So except the sounds and music. So we did everything for the animation. So not only producing the animation, but also organizing and managing, or the animation process is kind of really hard for us. And also because I'm working as an animator in my lifetime. So every time I finish my work, I should continue to work on my own film. So it was really hard for me because I couldn't have much time to take a break after work. But yeah, it was kind of fun, but at the same time, it was hardest part for me. Yeah.
What was the most rewarding thing? No.
I took away much things as I'm working on this film because I consider myself as a young age. So I as working on some film currently, I feel I know what to do as an animator. So I feel like I earn lots of like advantage as a potential filmmaker. I should say.
Cool. So what are your influences? Lisa, who's influenced you in filmmaking? Are you a longtime documentary lover?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been working in documentary since my mid-20s. I mean, one thing about working in documentary is that you, I mean, and this has just been my experience, but I hope is most people's experience, is you tend to work with great people. I mean, for the most part, you find people who are really interested in what's going on in the world and making this world a better place, those sort of people. So those are the people I've been working with for the last 25 years, and it's like, I feel in that sense, I feel really fortunate that like every single person I've ever worked with has left some mark on me because, they're passionate about something.
Mhm.
And they, so I feel like that's, just the people I've worked with over the years have left a mark on me. And my husband is a documentary filmmaker as well. He's actually an editor, and he edited Missing in Brooks County. And I think the two of us together, we kind of like grew as filmmakers together. And we teach each other things and we don't collaborate a whole lot, but we definitely watch each other's cuts and stuff. And I think that's been really valuable in my personal journey as a filmmaker. But yeah,
Cool.
and just watching all the great stuff that's out there now. There's just so much.
There's so much content now. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we have a real struggle in the festival with so many great films that get offered to us. So it's always hard to come down to a final list. But now, have you been a lover and student of animation since your childhood? Is there any animators that you've admired and taken style
Yeah,
from?
sure. Obviously, I've been watching. I grew up watching a lot of Disney and Pixar animations, and yeah, I think. But the biggest inspiration is, I guess, is my brother. Is also a filmmaker, is an animator, and we've been going through many years as an animator, and he's my biggest competitors, and at the same time, he's a biggest motivator and supporter of mine. So I would say he's a biggest inspiration for me.
Yeah, that's great. So you get along. You don't have too many fights.
That's kind of true, for sure.
Oh, that's great. So if you knew what you know now, what would you tell young filmmakers to help them start their career? Now, you're still at the beginning, it sounds like, but if you were talking to a middle school class who said, "Oh, we love animation," what would you tell them to help with the knowledge you've gained?
Sure. I'm still considering myself as an animator. I'm still a messy filmmaker, but yeah, in my experience, like try everything that you want or something that you need to pursue your goal in the future. I mean, try everything is kind of in a young age is kind of benefit. So yeah, I highly recommend to do it if you're planning to make some own film at some point in the future. Obviously, it's really challenging because you don't have much knowledge about making something, but obviously, I guess the experiencing something in early age is kind of big benefit.
Lisa, you probably think about this because you teach, but what would you say to the young Lisa who's coming up and starting?
Right.
What would you do differently?
Well, I think I would do things differently now just because the world of documentary is such a different place than when I started. I mean, documentary when I started, like no one watched documentaries. I mean, there are a few people, but no one really watched documentaries when I started, which was like the early 90s. Maybe mid 90s, but I think I always encourage people to make films. So like when I was starting, you couldn't really make a film on your own without resources. You needed money, you had to like rent an Avid in order to edit it. And that would be like thousands and thousands of dollars that you just didn't have as a young person. Now, your computer comes with some kind of editing software. It's probably not very good, but it comes with something. Right. And, it's like, anyone can make a film. And I think you learn about filmmaking by making films. So I went to AFI, I went to the American Film Institute, that's sort of the model where you collaborate with other students and you make films for 2 years. And that was my film school. So in a sense, like I had that experience, but I paid for it. But, then again, I also loved meeting all of these other people that wanted to do the same thing that I did. And we collaborated and it was like fantastic 2 years. I loved it. But, nowadays you don't necessarily have to go to graduate school. You can, just put some resources, the little bit that you have, into making a film, and find your friends and, your collaborators. And you just learn so much. Every project I've ever made, I've learned so much. So I think that's a great place to start.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I started in the film business, and you were told you had to intern for 10 years as a camera assistant or as a PA or whatever. You can't touch a sandbag, you can't do anything. And now in that world, that old establishment world, they call him the garage guy, who owns his camera and owns his editing system and makes his film all by himself. And there's no overhead. He can do it all for nothing and do great work, do great content. So that's available to everybody these days. So,
Yeah, thank you for both of you to your dedication to make this industry getting better.
What's next? Last question. What's next for each of you? Do you have another project already brewing, or you're going to spend time marketing this, or what's the plan?
For me, I don't, obviously, because I'm an animator, I've been working on some bunch of films as an animator, but as filmmaker, I've been working on some script, but I can't tell if I can finish this or not. I want to focus on animating more for now.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Lisa, what are you doing?
A lot of distribution and impact work with this film and with a couple of other films that I finished in the last couple of years. And one of the films is a short film called Soledad, and it's about an asylum seeker, so also about immigration. But the reason why I bring it up is because Narun, it has animation in it, and I've never incorporated animation in a film before. But what happened was we didn't have access to a certain part of the story, and we knew we weren't going to have access to it. And then I'm thinking, okay, what can we do? And I've never tried animation before, or to work with an animator before. So I found an animator who's young and was excited about the project. I mean, I paid them, but I didn't have tons of money to pay them for it. And it was a side project for them, like you, they're an animator by day, and then did this smaller project with me. And it was so gratifying to work with animation. And it really, and it's not a huge part of the film, but it's definitely in there. And I'd love to work more with animation, because I feel like there's a way that you can create emotion with animation that's so special. And I really want to play with that more. So we had this obstacle of not having access to something, and out of it I think came something much more interesting with the animation. So
that's cool.
Anyway, yeah, but I'm doing lots of distribution impact, and I can't even think about the next project, although I do think about it because I kind of miss production. But
well, keep us in mind. Come back and send us your short if you like. Sure. Same thing for both of you. Is there anything else either of you would like to say to your appreciative audience?
I mean, thank you for having me here. It's a great experience for me, and I hope you, the audience, can enjoy my film.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate anyone that is watches Missing in Brooks County, because we made this film to share it with as many people as possible, and tell your friends about it, tell your elected officials about what's going on in Brooks County, and that you're not happy about what's going on. And we are so dedicated to after working on this film for so many years, to really making some kind of significant change. So the more people that see it, the better. So the audience is part of this journey with us. So
great. Thank you both. And we'll look forward to seeing more of your work.